All right, we are live again, once again on a Saturday afternoon. Welcome everybody who's joining us today. I have a special guest with me today. I'm excited to chat with here for a little bit and pick his brain, Mr. David Sosa. Let's give him all a round of applause, everyone out there. Thank you, David, for joining us today. I appreciate you coming on and spending some time with us here. Uh,
Thank
I
you.
wanted to talk to you a little bit, but before we get into it, do you mind introducing yourself to everybody who's tuning in and letting them know who you are and what you do?
So my name is David Souza. I am from Mexico. I live in Mexico City. I grew up in California most of my life. And then I worked as an agent in New York City for many years, then moved back down to Mexico City and started a modeling agency. And I've been doing that. And also now I do actors and social media creators. So I do their fashion PR, for example, for actors. I help them with their image and to negotiate covers and brand deals and decide, what red carpets to go to and what vision we're going to go with their styling, etc. A little bit of everything. So I've been in the
Nice.
industry for a long time now.
Very good. So you are currently in Mexico City?
Yes.
That's where you're joining us today. Okay. Well, thank you for joining
Yes.
us. What time is it in Mexico
Of
City?
course.
Are you on Pacific time over
It
there?
is two. It is. I can't see my clock right now. It is. What time is it in LA?
8 a.m.
So it's 10. It's 10 a.m. here. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you guys are ahead of
Yeah.
LA. Well, good. Well, so Mexico City. So you grew up in California, but decided you
Yes.
wanted to work down in Mexico. What caused you, or what made you decide that? What was the events that led up to that?
So I would always come for either spring break or New Year's or whatever to see my grandparents. And when I was little, I didn't like Mexico City. It's a big city. I grew up in San Diego. I liked riding my bike and whatever. And then when I moved to New York City and started working as an agent, um, I came down to Mexico City once, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna call some agencies and see if there's any talent that I might want to collaborate with and like bring them to New York or whatever. And I went to see some agencies and I started researching a little bit about how the industry worked in Mexico City. And I basically saw that it, in my opinion, was lacking certain things. And then I just had this idea of like, I should move to Mexico City and start an agency there. I feel like there's like a boom coming and I can catch that wave. And I did. And I moved here when I was 23 and I opened a little agency, and it went pretty well, pretty fast. And it's been really cool because, especially since the pandemic, so many like Americans, Canadians, Europeans, etc., have moved to Mexico City. So the work has really changed. Netflix just announced a deal that they're going to produce, X, Y, and Z amounts of like um, movies and TV shows in Mexico City in this coming year. So it's I'm glad, that I got here in time to catch that wave and go up and it's been a long and cool process.
Yeah, I know there's a lot happening in Mexico itself, and with the film
Yes.
and modeling industry. So that's awesome. That's awesome that you're there. I love it. So you have family in the area, and you would go to visit, and just decided this would be a great place to set up.
Yeah, basically. And I mean, I love the city and I love the vibe now, but I will say I didn't love it when I came. I just came because I thought it was going to be an amazing opportunity in terms of work. And I was going to do it for a little bit, and then it just I stayed because I loved it. And the work it's been cool to be part of a generation that kind of changed things, and just watch the industry go, just keep growing. And a lot of what happens in Mexico City is what's distributed to all of Latin America. And there's huge content, whether it's music, film, modeling. A lot of it is done in Mexico City, shot in Mexico City, produced in Mexico City. So it's very exciting.
Nice. That's awesome. I love it. It's good energy down there, right? A lot
Very,
happening.
yeah.
So, are you fluent in Spanish then?
Yes, of course. I mean,
Nice.
I basically grew up speaking Spanish, and Spanglish is how I speak with my siblings. Um, but yes, I grew up speaking Spanish in my house.
Very cool. Now, primarily you worked with models, and then now you're actually working more with actors as well. But
Yes.
everybody who's out there, I know that David's Instagram is on the bottom of the screen. If you guys don't follow him yet, please do. I love your Instagram. I love seeing you at all these different events and all the fashion things that are happening down there as well. So it's very informative. Those of you who are into the modeling industry, definitely give David a follow there, and you'll get caught up on all the latest happenings. But obviously, the modeling world. Let's talk about the modeling world a little bit more right now. I'd love to get into it with you. Working with models, the big question that I have is when somebody's starting out. I want to make sure that those viewers who are tuning in today, there's maybe people watching that would love to get into the modeling industry. Somebody starting out fresh, let's say they're just out of high school, they want to get into modeling. What types of advice would you give to them to try to get advanced in being able to be represented by somebody like yourself?
So my first piece of advice is, and it is so much easier for today's generation than it was for like me and before, where we didn't have social media. So when I started, if you have Instagram or TikTok or YouTube, you can research so much about the industry and like the basics of the beginning, and find models who you are inspired by, who you think that maybe you could have a career similar to them. And so do like the first, level of research. Work on yourself taking photos, either selfies or have a friend take photos of you, and figure out like the angles of your face and body. And in the meantime, research about agencies. The closer to home, the better. So wherever you live, obviously, if you live somewhere like New York City or Los Angeles, where there's like a ton of agencies, then it's much easier. There's a lot of options. If you live in smaller states or smaller cities, etc., look for agencies as close as possible that you can email, message, and say, "Hi, my name is David. I'm 18 years old. I want to model. I've never done this before." Be super honest with agencies. You don't have to lie about your age or your height or your measurements. What I like to receive as an agent when someone's trying to seek representation and they're brand new and they don't really have a portfolio is just very natural snaps, natural photos taken with your phone with good lighting that really show your face and your body, just plain and simple. And just say, I'm really interested in modeling. I did some research about your agency, and I would love to speak to you guys about possible representation. And then there will be agencies that don't respond. If they get too many, that probably gets lost in there somewhere. I would say email the agency, message this, copy paste that same message and send it to their Instagram, to their TikTok, like, and the more the merrier. And then usually what will happen is like the more agencies you message, like your odds of getting a response are higher. And once somebody responds and they'll say, "Oh, hey, we like your look, we're interested, let's schedule a call, or let's meet in person," and etc.
Nice, very cool. Now, how often would you recommend that they reach out to you? So let's say somebody's fresh, they sent you an Instagram notice, sent you an email, followed your instruction. Would you say for them to follow up with you if they didn't hear back? And if so, how often?
I would say to follow up like probably like once a week, I would say.
Okay.
Sometimes it's hard. You could be that lucky person that sent a message on Instagram on a day that didn't have much activity, and your message was right on top when the person that does the Instagram logged on and immediately saw it and immediately responded. There's people that literally have sent a message and got a response within 5 minutes. And then there's people that sent a message and then somebody tagged the account on something, and then it was full of comments or likes or etc., and then your message went, got a little bit lost in translation. Now I have models that also message our Instagram saying hi. That's it. I'm not going to respond to that. Like, it's not a personal account. We're not hi. I want hello, my name is, this is where I live, this is my age, I'm interested in modeling. Like, come on, like, be professional. Nobody wants to respond to like a hi. Or I've read messages that are like, hi, I'm interested. Interested in what? Like, what, you know what I mean? So if you didn't put enough effort to write an eloquent, like, professional message, I'm not going to respond. Like, because there's a million messages that are very well written that have information that you can tell this person clearly wants to model, you know? There's a difference. So I would say reach out like once a week. Also, while you're doing this, if you can find any photographers local to your area, whether they're more established or whether it's your friend who's studying photography, whatever, and say, hey, would you like to take some photos of me so that I can come up with like my modeling portfolio? Anything helps. Like, the more, obviously your first photos, are not going to be the most amazing photos ever, but every little bit, it's a ladder, and you got to start climbing. So the sooner you start climbing, the better.
Nice. Now, do you actually consider models who are brand new? Have you ever had a client who brand new, fresh, not a lot of experience?
Like brand new, 0% experience. Yes. And I've had people that message me and they're like, hey, I'm writing to you because my sister, my daughter, I think should be a model. Here's some information. Here are some photos. I've had all kinds of, and yes, we have definitely signed many people who have 0% knowledge. I've also had people that I have scouted in an event, that another agent at a modeling school, etc., has introduced to me, that has sent to me, and it's like a relief because they are many steps ahead in terms of like the knowledge of what we need from them, and they feel way more prepared. So it's definitely a nice shortcut, let's say, for us, when it's somebody that like has taken a runway class or has taken some sort of workshop or something. They're a little bit, many steps ahead as someone that has no idea. But yes, we have signed people that have never had 0% experience.
And do you work with models under the age of 18? Do you guys represent models younger than that?
Really only locally in the beginning, because it's hard. It's very hard for um, clients to want to like fly out a model who's underage to do a job, because then they'd have to fly out, a mother, a father, a legal guardian or something. So if they live here locally for local jobs, yes, but we do have models who are over the age of 18 who live in other cities, states, countries, who we have worked with, who we've told them, hey, why don't you come stay in Mexico City for 2 months and, book as much work as possible. Everything. We have models who live in LA who will sometimes fly in for like one job and fly right back. So a little bit of everything. But the age
Nice.
thing can be an issue for certain clients.
Got it. Now, I was going to ask you, my next question was, do you represent models, around the world? Is that something that you guys look at as well?
Yes, definitely.
And is there specific heights and looks that you are specifically looking for, or that the market's currently asking for, or do you consider all models? Are you looking for print models as well, or mostly high fashion?
No, a little bit of everything. I would say that the general, so like for example, for runway shows, the majority of the time they are looking for tall models because it's easier for the clothes, etc. But honestly, from a few years back, especially after the pandemic, like all the rules just keep getting broken every day, and it's exciting too, because like it's exciting because there really is a space now for everyone. I see people at fashion shows of every age, every height. The the majority of the models on the runway are taller, but every day now you just keep seeing shorter people, older people. When I started, like, you did not see older people modeling unless it was like they were doing like a, you know, the mother of the bride catalog or something like that. But like Nowadays, you go to, I mean, I go to Paris and Milan basically every season for Fashion Week, and you see women who are in their 40s, 50s, sometimes 60s on the runway, and they're not modeling old lady clothes. They're just modeling the collection that all the other younger girls are modeling. So it's a very, to me, it's a very exciting time in fashion. And obviously, you see someone like Dua Lipa doing the Versace show, and then Paris Hilton did it the other season, and Miley Cyrus did the Marc Jacobs show. So you see like celebrities, you see athletes doing fashion shows. You see David Beckham's kid did the Balenciaga show last season. So it's real. Obviously, famous people go a different route. They're not like going to a casting to be in that fashion show. But there are, unknown, non-famous people who you see in fashion shows because they have something to bring to the table that makes them very unique. And it's their walk, it's their personality, it's their look. In terms of print work, definitely having a very symmetrical face always helps because it catches the light in a good way. But I can say that to you, and then tomorrow you're going to see somebody with a very crooked nose and they have a successful career because they bring something else to the table, and they're amused, they inspire photographers, designers, stylists, because they go above and beyond. There are models who I have seen in my career who are unbelievably beautiful, just breathtakingly beautiful. And I think they're aware of it. And so they show up to a shoot and they're like, hello. And this is all you're going to get.
Nice. So there's
That's it.
still hope for
Because
me. I'm getting excited.
there's definitely hope for you, for sure. No, I mean it. Honestly, there is hope for everybody in terms of like if you have something unique to bring to the table, if you have a story to tell. And in terms of strictly modeling, you're not speaking, like it's harder, but there are people who just they see a camera and they light up and they just become something else, and they have the ability to become what the photographer wants them to become. There are models who they can only give you one look and it's like they can only look pretty, or they can only look, and there are models who can give you a little bit of everything. They can look a little pretty, they can look a little ambiguous, they can look a little scared, they can look a little mean. And that obviously turns into a way more successful career because more clients all over the board will want to work with you and want to book you. And people who really go above and beyond in terms of trying to get that photo and get that shot are more exciting to work with, because if you hire them again for this other job, they're going to go all out and try to get the shot. And then there's other people that you can tell they don't really want to be there. And I would say successful models, that's the thing, is like that you might have the look and you might have the measurements, and then you start working and people will quickly see that you really don't have the passion for it, and it's not going to go very far.
So if you have a model who's, let's say, really good look, great look, but maybe tends to be, you could tell, a little uncomfortable in front of the camera, or just not that experienced working with the photographers, what would you recommend that they do? Are there any things that you guys suggest for them to just kind of break them out of their shell?
So my first is research in terms of like having a photo gallery in your head of successful models and how they move and how they pose, and being able to reference in your head, like, oh, I remember this cover of like French Vogue that came out 5 years ago with this model that I'm in love with. It's easier to pose when you show up to a shoot and the photographer says, like, I think of, sometimes there are photographers who will tell you, okay, sit here and pretend you're in Paris and it's freezing cold and you're wearing this mink coat, and they'll tell you this whole story. I think sometimes when they tell you a whole story, it's easier to like get into the character they want. Other photographers are like, sit here, and they're like, just start moving and I'll tell you. It's hard. Then there are photographers who say, put your hand here, put this finger there, and do not move it, and then put your nose right there, and then don't move. So you're like, so how do you keep from like looking stiff? So you do it for a few shots, and then you breathe, and then you do it again. So that practice makes perfect. Obviously, in the beginning, nobody's giving you a chance because you're going to castings and nobody's booking you. So how do you practice? You practice with friends. You ask people to take your photos. You take a million selfies. But it's not a selfie of like just the same. I don't want to see 100 selfies of your face in the exact same angle and the exact same crop. No, like move away from the camera, move back, take photos covering half of your face. Take photos with your hair slicked back. Take photos with half of your hair covering half of your face. Play with it so that you can also start to learn your angles. Take photos with your lips like closed, with your lips a little bit open, with, I can go on and on. So the more you practice, and nowadays it's so easy. You just take a bunch of photos, you look at them, delete them, start over, ask a few friends to take some photos, put a tripod up, you know?
Right. Absolutely. And everybody's got a camera nowadays in their hands, right? With their phones.
100%. Yeah.
That's what's great about it. Back in the day, I have a manager friend of mine, and she calls me up. I was in LA at the time, and she said, "Hey, do you want to go to dinner tonight?" And I said, "Sure." And she says, "I need help entertaining a client. My boss just brought a client in from Utah with his family, and it's their first night here in LA. They've never been to LA, and I'm responsible for my boss is preoccupied with another appointment. I'm responsible to take him out to dinner and keep him entertained. Could you please come and join me?" So I did. I went and had dinner with her, and her client was Lucky Blue Smith. I don't know if you know who that is, but he
Of
had just come in
course.
from Utah, and I met him. I had dinner with him and his family and everybody. They're all beautiful. The whole family is. And the funny
I've met
thing was,
him and his sister.
oh, yeah, his
Yeah.
sisters were there as well. And yeah, I mean, he was just this unknown kid from Utah, had just gotten signed with Roar Management Company is who this was with at the time. And yeah, it was kind of interesting. It was funny because literally his career just took off. Like from that moment on, I saw him everywhere. I traveled the world and I'd see him in, billboards in Australia and places like that. So now, what's your greatest
Would you
reward?
say that when you,
Oh, go ahead.
sorry, I just remember when I met him, he was brand new. Like he had been signed in New York for a couple of months, and it was picking up his career. And I met him and I was like, oh, hi, whatever. And he was a very like, just outgoing, like he was like, he started talking and I was like, he was very entertaining. He was very nice. He was very um, sure of himself, I would say, but
Yeah.
nice. And he wasn't cocky. He wasn't like arrogant. He was just like, oh, hi. Yeah. Oh, I'm super happy. Yeah. I'm excited for this opportunity, whatever. Like he was a very, very nice kid. And then I probably ran into him, I don't know, maybe like 2 years later, and I saw him backstage at a fashion show, and I just said, "Hey, congratulations! I see your career doing so well. Oh, thank you so much." And he's so tall, and he's so, um, but he has a magnetic thing, and that's why I think his career picked up so quickly because
Yeah.
he just broke through that wall really quick when he would meet people. I saw him; he would just introduce himself, he would talk, he would look you in the eye. He was very like just secure.
Yeah, my friend, her boss that went and met with him in Utah, she said, "Yeah, there's a kid that, everybody kept talking to us about and saying, you have to see this kid, you have to see this kid." And so her boss ended up flying out to Utah just to meet him and the family. Obviously, saw photos of him as well prior to meeting and ended up, signing him right then and there, and the rest is history. But yeah, he's got that good
That's cool.
energy about him, right? A lot of personality. And that's the thing I think I find very interesting is I think that models who are interested in taking like even acting classes uh, give them just a little bit more of an edge when they're working with photographers because acting's not easy, but yet you're still in front of the camera, right? If somebody's filming you for a short film and you still have to perform. And so learning those same kind of techniques with performance, it's all about performance. Or you have, models who have been dancers or models who have been, cheerleaders or people that have been in stage in front of crowds. They seem to be better in front of the camera. Would you find that to be
A
true?
hundred, a million percent. And nowadays, I always tell models, please go take ballet classes, take singing lessons, take acting, even if you don't want to be a singer. just exposing yourself to that knowledge and to practicing performing. At the end of the
Right.
day, as a model, you're performing maybe just to one photographer in a small shoot, but it's a performance. You're performing for a camera. If you're a singer, if you're a dancer, if you're a comedian, live comedian, if you, all of these things, everything will help. Even if you don't want to be an actor, if you just want to be a model, I would still encourage you to take a few acting classes, because you will learn how, at the end of the day, for a model, you still have to go to castings and be able to say, hi, my name's David, I'm from Mexico City, just and you can get a lot of that from an acting class, and just exposing yourself to having to stand up in front of all the other students and reading your monologue or crying, or even if you don't, if you know that you're not the best actor in the world and you're not going to win an Oscar, like, I would still say take a few acting classes. It'll definitely help. And sometimes you could be very surprised by the talent that you have in there that you didn't know you had. And sometimes
Right. Yeah.
not, and it's fine. You might not be an amazing singer and you're not going to get a Grammy. That's fine. But if you take some singing lessons, just vocally what you do to your chords by taking singing lessons will help you as an actor, for example, even if you never become a singer.
Right. And, and
So
and the other side of that too, it's not easy to do something that you're not used to. So you go to a singing, lesson, the teacher's going to have you sing for them, and you may not have ever sang for anybody before. So you're going to be nervous. You're going to feel awkward, but it's going to place you, like you said, out there and give you some skills and some techniques so that way you can handle everything else better.
learning to be comfortable with being uncomfortable is amazing. I am not talking about being uncomfortable at a photo shoot where you feel like the photographer is a horrible person and they're treating you like crap. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about uncomfortable in the sense of stepping out of your comfort zone. So
Right.
learning to be uncomfortable with wearing an outfit that you would have normally not worn, or saying lines as an actor, being, maybe you're the nicest, sweetest person on the planet, and as an actor you have to portray, this horrible person. That's part of, so being uncomfortable in that sense will help you grow as an artist big time.
And you said that you're working as a model in front of a photographer, right? But usually when you're on set, there's more than just a photographer, right? So there's going to be,
The
hair,
bigger
makeup,
the
lighting.
production, usually there's a, yeah, like there's, I feel like once they've done your hair and makeup, like sometimes they kind of step to the side. So like at the photo shoot, even though there are people around, sometimes it definitely feels very much like there's just you and the photographer and the camera's right here. Sometimes it's a big production and there's like a lighting guy and a guy with a fan and hair, makeup, styling, and the catering. And it's a big shoot. Um, but I always say pretend like no one's there and it's
Oh, we lost you. We lost his stream. David, are you still there? We'll give him a minute to come back. While we're waiting, hello everybody for joining me. Thank you. Be
Can you
sure to
hear
follow
me?
David on Instagram. Oh, there you are.
I don't know what happened. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. It's happened to me before.
I hate that. Um, I was saying, sorry, at a photo shoot, it's sometimes if it's a very large set with a ton of people, it can be very distracting for models. I see, because there's somebody over there and somebody over there and somebody. So like trying to focus on the camera. Like it's very different because usually in modeling, you want to be very aware of where the camera is and where the light is. And whether you're looking at the camera or not, you are super aware of where the camera is. In acting, they want you to kind of lose yourself in the character and not be aware of the camera. So it's all very different. But if you've done a little bit of everything, it just helps your ability to be an artist will grow so much by trying. I encourage to take all dance lessons, singing lessons, acting lessons, modeling classes, everything, a little bit of everything will round you out as a way better artist.
Nice. And do you recommend that models like study the current trends of fashion or what's happening in the industry as far as just educating themselves with it? Is that another thing that you encourage them to do, or is that not as important?
I encourage both. I encourage you to be very aware of what is happening in the industry right now. What are the trends? What are the models that are doing really well, and why do you think that is? But also research what was the trends in the 2000s and the 80s and the 90s and the 70s, and when did modeling as we know it today start? Because everything comes around. Everything goes around over and over again, and trends keep going. And you don't want to be a model who you're the trend of the moment, because the moment will last for 2 seconds. And if you catch the trend and you figure out that, if right now I saw that everybody on the runway looks like this and is my age and okay, fine, I'll jump on the bandwagon and I'll ride the wave. But if all you have to bring to the table is that you are the look of the moment, that career will not last as a model. If you can jump on the train because you have that moment, and then grow and become, Kate Moss, Naomi Campbell, their look has been the moment and not, but their careers have never stopped because they became a full-blown supermodel, because they have the ability to fit into whatever each client wants. And for example, I have this model who, she's a brunette, and sometimes I'll get a casting and they're like, oh, we're looking for a redhead or we're looking for a blonde. And she'll be like, I want to go to that casting. I'm like, they specifically requested blondes. And she's like, I'm just going to show up. And I'm like, okay. And she has no fear of being turned away. No, she has no fear of anything. And I kid you not, 1 out of 3 times she will show up and they wanted a blonde and they'll book her.
Really? That's amazing.
Or they wanted short hair and then they book her and she has long hair. I don't know what she does. She has that magnet of it, but she believes it. And it's not in an arrogant way. It's in a very and also she's hungry for the opportunity, and she is not at all scared to show up to a casting and be told oh, you're not what we're looking for. She doesn't take it personal, because it isn't personal. Sometimes literally, it's for a shoot where they wanted, a model with short hair this short and your hair is super long. They're not going to book you. Sometimes they specifically needed a blonde hair because it's an ad for highlights, or whatever. It's not personal. If you didn't get the job, it's because you didn't have XYZ that they were looking for. But having that attitude of I don't care, I'm going to go to the casting and just kind of put myself out there. And sometimes they're casting for something that you're not right for at all. But if you go there and you make a memorable impression, they're going to say oh my God, that other thing I'm producing in 2 weeks, this person is perfect for that.
Right. It's about making impressions no matter where you go, right? Making the network.
100%.
I love it. What would it look like? Let's say you signed a model today. What would the process look like for them being signed today, leading up to just getting prepared for their first shoot with your company?
It really depends. If they are in some other city, not here, we would schedule, a Zoom, whatever, sign them, and then tell them I would tell them I need you to either ask your mother, a tripod, somehow produce photos that look as close as possible to this. Obviously I'm not going to ask them to, take these elaborate, crazy photos. But I'll ask them, can you take photos that are this, send them to me. And with that, I will start showing your look to clients and try to get you booked for something. If they live in Mexico City, I'll tell them, obviously come meet us. I'll take what we call Polaroids or digitals, which is very natural, just natural lighting, very little makeup or none, and just very realistic photos of what they look like, and send those to clients. Because sometimes people don't want to do in-person castings anymore, and they'll just say, send me this person's snapshots, send me a little intro video saying hi, my name's David. I'm 6 feet tall. I'm 20 years old, whatever. And you send it, and then they see a bunch of submissions, and then they decide, okay, these are the 4 people that we want to do a Zoom casting with. And they'll send agencies hey, we want to meet this model of yours. We'll do a little quick Zoom casting. for example. If they live in the city though, or they live in a city where I can reach out to a photographer and say, hey, would you be able to, so we can arrange a shoot for them to shoot with a professional photographer and have a photographer shoot their first book photos, so they'll shoot what's called a test shoot, and they'll shoot photos of them where the focus is them. It's not, I don't want like a super crazy hair and makeup or eyes. I want something that literally focuses on you and your beauty, and then with that we can start promoting you to clients and start getting you jobs. And like I said about the latter, it's obviously the first jobs you get when you're brand new and have zero experience. It's little clients that pay little, and it's a little catalog here, a little small little campaign here, or whatever. But sometimes that ladder can be, you can climb it pretty quickly. And some of it is luck, but luck might open a few doors. But what builds a long-lasting career is not luck. It is like being professional, being on time, taking care of yourself. When you're a model, your office hours are always, and you need to take care of your health and your skin, and you need to go to sleep at what you need to figure out what time you need to go to sleep, so that the next day when you wake up you don't have a puffy face, and you need to take care of yourself, and your body is your instrument. So you need to eat healthy, you need to sleep the right way, you need to take care of your hair. When people start modeling, 99% of the time they start, in the beginning, they have a little bit of issues with skin, because they go from like not wearing that much makeup to like, the more you start working, every day you show up to a photo shoot and they do your makeup every time. So if you don't become disciplined on the second the job ends, take that makeup off, clean your face, learn how to, because you're wearing makeup from all kinds of brands with every different makeup artist you can think of. So you need to be able to know what your skin needs to maintain it and clean it quickly, and
Right. Just to keep that appearance up. Now, do you guys recommend like nutritional guidelines? Do you guys give out the information regarding that, or do you recommend that they go talk to nutritionists in their area, or how do you keep track of all that?
We do not give nutritional advice, and like, we are not nutritionists. What I say is, what works for you does not work for them. Like, everybody's different. Find out what works for you and what you need to be eating to be healthy. You need energy. You don't want to go to a photo shoot and say like, oh, I didn't have a big breakfast because I didn't want to feel like full, for the photo shoot. Okay, but then also, if you didn't have a good breakfast, 2 hours into the photo shoot, you might be exhausted already. And so what do you need? Or if you had this huge like sugar rush, and then it's like the crash comes down, figure out what you need to eat. If some people have extremely large breakfast, some people have coffee, some people don't. It's up to you, but it's like, but I do mention it. It's like, do that research now. Like, find out what you need to eat to have the energy, to feel good, to look good, to be able to do the best job possible.
I love it. Yeah, it's funny because you're right. Everybody does react differently to food, environment, stress, everything that's involved. I had a cousin years ago. I saw him, and he was always a really tall, skinny build. And he told me, he said, "Hey, this month is beginning of the year. He's like, I'm gonna gain 10 pounds of muscle. I'm gonna go to the gym." He got a membership, and he bought the weight gainer that you can go to like a GNC or nutritional store. Bought weight gainer, 2,000 calories is a serving, I think it was, or 1,000 calories a serving, something like that. And he was consuming like 2,000 calories in weight gainer. Plus, he said he was eating like cheeseburgers and fast food and just trying to eat all this stuff. And I saw him a month later. I'm like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, "I gave up all that." I said, "What happened?" He said, "I gained 4 pounds in a month." Here he was consuming. If I had consumed that much every day, I would be very.
I would gain it real quick. That's
Yeah.
so funny. That's so
So
funny.
yeah, food and nutrition, obviously everybody has their own thing and knows what works for them and their skin and all that stuff. I love
I,
that. So
I
you give
I
them
know
guidance.
models who tell me that they need to get a workout in before a shoot. So if they know they have a shoot at 9 a.m., they wake up at 6 a.m., they go to the gym. Some people are like, no, I would never work out before a shoot because then I'll be a little tired. So they like do their shoot, and at night they'll work. It's up to you. I'm not there to tell you what time to do XYZ. But I do mention it, and I say those things you need to plan, because when you're a model, you're an independent contractor. You don't have, you know, a boss telling you every step of the way what you do and don't do. As long as you show up to the call time, when I tell you, hey, you have a photo shoot tomorrow, it's at 9 a.m. If you show up, that's all I need. But you need to be able to do the preparation beforehand to be able to do the job well. And if that means that you go on a run in the morning before showing up to work, or some people don't, some people just need to wake up 5 minutes before, take a quick shower, and go.
Now, you mentioned digitals. You need digitals when somebody's first starting out. How often do you need digitals from your models? Is that something that you just do once and then you're done, or?
All the time. All the time. Clients are always like, oh, we want to book this model. Like, oh, could you send me digitals? And sometimes I wish I could say, like, you just saw her 2 weeks ago. Like, how much do you think that their appearance changed? But all the time. I literally ask my models all the time, can you take some, obviously somebody that has been doing it for a while, in 2 seconds, they don't even respond, and 2 seconds later, boom, they send me like the 4 shots. They know what I want. It's usually like a close-up of your face, just straight on, a half body, a full body, some sort of like a three-quarter, you know. If I need something super specific, I'll say, hey, can you send me some digitals of you with your hair slicked back, and no jewelry? Or can you send me digitals of your hair like all the way in front so I can see the length? Little things like that. Um, hey, can you show me some digitals of you with a shorter beard, with a longer beard? You know, if it's something that you vary. Sometimes clients will say, hey, can you ask this model not just shave for a couple of days, and send us a photo so we can see, you know, if they can look older for this job, for example.
Got it. And then you said also that you like them to schedule their first shoot, right away, obviously, starting to work with you. You want to get some shots. Now, you said you want that focus to be them.
Mhm.
Could somebody go out today and maybe book a photographer to kind of prepare for that? And if so, what do you recommend? If the focus is them, do you recommend certain outfit types or what are you looking for?
I don't recommend a background like where I am right now. I want all of the focus to be the model. I don't want a crazy dress. I don't want a crazy hat. I don't, like, literally, I want plain clothes with no logos. Stay away from stripes, polka dots. Like, the simpler, the better. If you can, I mean, obviously there are photographers who that's like their expertise, so they will tell you bring these kinds of outfits, etc. But my dream for a first photo shoot for someone is to deliver me 4 outfits. One can be a very more dressed up kind of thing, maybe like a suit or like a black dress. Um, one of them can be with your hair slicked back. One of them can be with the hair super natural, and one in between. If it's a girl, maybe one of it's like the hair super back, the hair super either straight or curly, but like down, and then like half up, half down, um, with no jewelry or very simple jewelry. Um, a photo of you smiling, and that can be, or it can be like it doesn't, you know. But I would love to get a photo of them of a model who's brand new, one that looks a little more commercial, one that looks like a Macy's back to school catalog kind of thing, one that looks like an evening gown kind of catalog, and one that looks like a Prada or Dolce & Gabbana thing where you're like super serious, slick back hair. You can go a little bit darker on the makeup, but nothing too crazy, nothing too specific. These photos are meant to give the client the opportunity to imagine you however they want. So if you have a shoot where you are wearing like tons of, you know, jewelry, and you're trying to look like a punk, and that's your first photo shoot, they will only see you as a punk. Once you have a portfolio where you have a photo of you in a wedding gown, and then another one that's super punky, and then another one where you're wearing a suit and tie and like glasses, that's that's where we're trying to go eventually, to have a portfolio of photos of you in every shade possible. But in the beginning, we want very plain and simple, a plain black background, and it's just the focus should be you. I don't know if I made myself clear.
No, so we're talking about the first photo shoots,
Yes.
and we're talking about what you would love to have as representing.
Yes.
But so are you hoping to have them in studio? Is that more ideal, or does it matter if they're outside?
It doesn't matter to me, as long as studio is a little bit easier because the lighting it's easier to control. But if I've had many people send me like their first photo shoot and it's outdoors and it's like great lighting, natural lighting, and they're amazing shots. Again, if it's outside on the street and you can see like a bus and a bike and a dog and a tree, the more things I can see, the more distracted I will be from looking at you. So keep that in mind. But if it's outdoors and it's on the beach and all you can really see is a little bit of sand and water, that's fine. If it's outdoors in a park and what you really see is just trees, like it's like a background of like nature, that's fine. You just don't want your first photo shoot to be in New York City in Times Square where you can see logos, people, a stoplight, and then the last thing on my mind is to look at you.
Right. I get it. Very good.
But I see people all the time, they shoot on the street and they find like a great door of like a nice color and they shoot in front of that door. And then another one is on this gray wall and another one is like crossing the street, but in a place where it's kind of like you don't really have much of a distraction. So that's my key thing, is you don't want a background that distracts from looking at you.
And now you're using these to pitch them to clients, I'm assuming,
Yes.
right? That's
Yes.
kind of the goal. So you're asking for professional photos. You don't want them at this point, you don't want them to be taking selfies of themselves for these
Not
types of
selfies. No, not selfies. No. In the beginning, if I find someone and they live in the middle of nowhere and there is no photographer in sight, I will say, hey, can you take some photos? Like I wouldn't, not selfies, like put a tripod up, get a friend to hold the camera and take photos of you looking this way. And I'll give them a little like cheat sheet of what I'm looking for. But then the very next step is to figure out a way to get a photographer to shoot you. So either you have to travel to another city or we need to figure out a way to get a photographer to shoot you so that you have the right images to be able to sell your look to clients.
Now, moving forward, so they do this first shoot with you, you start submitting them to clients. What happens if like some time goes by and they don't end up booking anything? Do you request, like how often do you request that they get these test shots done?
It really depends, but I would say like every 6 months, maybe.
Okay.
Give or take, but it really depends. Obviously, if you get a test shoot done right now and then 2 weeks later you went from having super long hair to a buzz cut, we're going to need a whole new set of photos. But if your look has really not changed, I would say every 6 months, give or take. We as an agent, like we know that it doesn't happen overnight. So it's not like I lose hope where you have great photos and it's been 2 months and you haven't booked a job. I'm not losing hope. I know that the beginning is really tough. The beginning is the worst part in terms of like, it's just slow. And sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes a week later you book your first job and then 2 months happen where you didn't book anything else. That's super normal. And we as an agent are not going to like lose faith in you. If you're not booking jobs because every time I ask you to take, a casting video, your video sucks and you make no effort or whatever, that's a different story. If I see that you're working hard for it and you're not booking jobs in the beginning, it's because you're just haven't had the right client where you fit in, and it's fine. It takes a little bit.
It takes a little bit
or
effort.
a lot bit, depending on, but it's fine. It's really, I'm very patient as an agent. As long as if you're doing your side of what you need to be doing, I know that it can take a couple of months to, and you might be one of those people that gets like one little job once a month in the beginning. And then, but obviously once the ball is rolling and you're a successful model, you're working all the time.
Right. Nice.
Which is
I love
the
it.
goal for everybody.
What can you tell me a story? Like what's been one of your favorite moments working in the industry?
Uh, um, oh God, so many. I will say that I've had the privilege to work with models who, when I met them, were very introverted and not very secure. And because of modeling, they kind of came out of their shell. That's been really rewarding. Um, I had one of my models that I was with her in New York when she booked the Marc Jacobs show, and it was really exciting. And they bleached her eyebrows and they made her look really cool and yada yada. And um, it was actually when Kendall Jenner was doing her first like big runway show ever, which was the Marc Jacobs show as well. And she was behind her in the lineup before the fashion show. So it was like an exciting moment. And my model's career kind of just took off really quickly. And I remember when she got her first Vogue cover, and when she walked for Chanel in Paris. Like there's the key moments that have been really exciting. It's hard to choose one. But I will say it's just that like, looking back and talking to a model and saying like, remember when, a year ago or 2 years ago, we were talking about XYZ and now you've done all this stuff. It's
Right.
it's awesome. And I've had models who have gone on to star in, to go on Survivor, or Top Chef, or become an actor, or become a singer. Like, and it's exciting to see when their career completely pivots to something super different. And some models who are still modeling, and they've been modeling for 20 years and they're still working. It's both, all of it is exciting to me.
Nice. Do you try to attend as many fashion shows as possible every year to see your models?
Yes, I do. And you know what? I will say, there are days where everything is very like it's just a job and it's a Monday through Friday kind of thing. But when like I have a thing with fashion shows, and the second a fashion show starts, I kind of forget about everything else and I just get lost in the moment. And I feel so happy and blessed that I get to do this for a living because I love my job
Nice.
and I love
So,
fashion in general. So
well, I'm waiting for the invitation. So next fashion show that you have coming up, just send me a
you
text
should
message.
come to Mexico City for Fashion Week. It's really cool. It's really fun.
Nice.
Yeah,
When is that? What time of
for
year
sure.
is that?
It'll be, they haven't announced the dates yet, but it'll be in May. And then the other one is in October.
Oh, so they have it twice a year, like in New York.
Twice a year. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Really cool. The one thing I would love to spend more time in Mexico City. I've spent a lot of time in Mexico, but I've only laid over in Mexico City. I haven't had a time
Most
to.
people go to the beaches like on vacation, which is super fun. And there's obviously great and really nice. But Mexico City is a completely different vibe. And for everybody watching, come to Mexico City. It's a very exciting city.
Yeah,
Lots
I've
of stuff
heard
going
great
on.
things, and I'll definitely, when I do come, I definitely am going to hit you up because my
Please do.
favorite food is Mexican food.
Me
So,
too.
if I could only choose one food for the rest of my life, it would absolutely be Mexican food. So, I'm all about it. And now I heard that the spice is different there, obviously, than it is like the Southern Californian style of Mexican food, right?
Completely different. I love Tex-Mex and I love like American Mexican food. I can even love Taco Bell. Like I love it all. But it's very different when you have like Mexican food in the States than when you have Mexican food in Mexico. It's very different.
Right.
It's
I love it.
delicious. I love it.
I
It's a fun
definitely want to make
country and
sure.
it's
Yeah, Gerard and I were talking about the other day. We were like, we need to go to Mexico City. We need to come down, and we do, of course. We're going
it's
to land on your doorstep. So I hope
a
you're ready for it.
100%. I will give you the grand tour. We'll have fun for sure.
How much time should I plan? Should I plan like a month? Should I plan a couple days?
No, at least a week. People sometimes come for 2 days. I'm like, no, there's no, at least a week. There's a lot to see.
Nice.
Yeah,
Very
you'll
cool.
like it. It's a fun city.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. I always haven't, and it's just one of those places I just haven't had a chance to, spend a lot of time there or have an excuse to go down there. A lot of my travel involves work, and so now that I'll make the excuse that I'm going, for work, and I'll go down there and at least say, meet with you and
Please
call
do.
it.
Please do. It would be
Um,
really fun.
Before I let you go today, I know you probably have a full Saturday plan ahead of you. What one piece of advice would you give to somebody who's starting off in the industry, who wants to make it big time? What would you tell them today if they haven't done anything at the moment? What piece of advice would you give to them?
Be very realistic. Don't expect, I think most people nowadays expect this like quick fame, and they see stories of this TikToker who a month later has like 10 million followers. Don't, if that happens and you're that lucky person, yay, but that's not normally what's going to happen. Um, Expect that it is a career that takes time to build and that you need to work hard at it. It's not just a career of like looking pretty and looking glamorous. And yes, I think sometimes people will see it in even in me in my career as an agent. Like, yes, I go to Paris for Fashion Week, and yes, I go to New York, yada yada yada. But there's also a whole other side to the business that is just it's work and it's discipline and it's being informed of what's going on and having a pulse on the fashion industry in general. And if you don't see fashion magazines, if you don't see fashion shows, if you don't know what's going on, when you go to a casting, you're not going to know what they're looking for. So I always say, do your research. Like, if you go to a product casting, you're expected to give a whole other vibe than if you go to a Tommy Hilfiger casting, for example. You know, most brands, they have like a thing that they're looking for and a vibe that they're looking for. If you go to the Victoria's Secret fashion show casting, it's a very different walk that they want than if you go to the Dior casting. So the more research you do, the better. And don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone. And don't be
Nice.
afraid of rejection, because this industry is completely full of rejection. Even the best top models will go to 10 castings and only book one job out of the 10. It's fine. It's normal. And they're working all the time.
Learning that you're going to hear no is going to happen.
Yeah. And a lot of times you won't know why. It's just they didn't book you, but it's not like they're going to tell you, you look too young, you look too old. Sometimes there's no feedback. You just didn't book the job. It's nicer when there's feedback and oh, okay, they wanted somebody that looks 10 years older than me. Obviously, I'm not going to book the job. It's not personal. But sometimes you will not hear any feedback, and it's just you didn't book the job. And you got to get comfortable with that.
Well, I appreciate your time today. I thank you for taking time out of your weekend. I'm sure you have a lot planned, and it's early morning there, so you have a full weekend ahead of you, but enjoy your weekend. And like I said, I would love to see you hopefully in the near future, and hopefully I'll see you in Mexico. Yeah, I would love to do that.
100%. Hit me up, and
I'll put Fashion Week on the calendar, but you're going to have to give me fashion advice on what to wear.
I will definitely give you advice. I'll just dress you up. I love playing dress up, so it's perfect. And for everybody watching, my Instagram's down there. If you have any questions or something that kind of came up, message me, and I'll try to respond as quick as possible. Happy to help.
Well, we appreciate learning a little bit from you today, and enjoy the rest of your weekend. Thanks, David. We'll see you soon.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.